No visual crack marks on the H2. No visual cracks on the V4. No visual cracks. No visual cracks. No visual cracks on this tire either, but KTM. It would appear that there is an anomaly in my garage. If you guys missed the last episode, the last escapade that we've been having with this KTM, I unfortunately had the escapade where the tires cracked on the KTM 13 hours away from home, and I had to unfortunately drive back here to Ohio where there is still tons of ice and snow on the ground. Luckily, today is the first 48-degree day that we've had in months. It doesn't appear that these tires are splitting enough to let air out of the tires, so that's at least a good thing. This is an extremely cold start on a KTM 990 RCR. Freshly washed after being taken to Orlando, Florida. One of the more reasonable sounding ones. I don't want to complain about the sun being out. It's just making filming this a lot more difficult. I can't see you right now. You can probably barely see me. So with the KTM all done, I just washed it, got the chain lubed up. Basically a brand new bike again. Despite only having 300 miles on the bike, I didn't get to break it in. Hey, it is what it is at the end of the day. I wanted to do a quick head count of every single motorcycle that I own going into the 2026 season, because I feel like a lot of people are still confused about it. This is my 2024 Kawasaki H2 that I'm still holding on to. I made a video discussing how I have plans to sell this bike, but then it came up that Kawasaki is planning on discontinuing this current version of the bike, and the next version of the bike is likely going to be a much less desirable version of this bike, so I'm kind of holding on to it for right now. I lose a lot of money on motorcycles over the years, and here's the one opportunity where this may appreciate in value, so it'd be a really stupid idea to sell this bike even though I don't really need the money right now. You know, I just realized this might be a really fun opportunity to discuss the costs of every single one of these bikes as I go through it. Like, what are the costs of the modifications? What did I buy each motorcycle for? I don't know if people are curious about that, but motorcycling is like typically a hobby that not many people are familiar with, so this could be fun. Longtime viewers of the page may recount that I own a lot of motorcycles. I currently own 8, which is the most I've ever owned in my lifetime. So I figured I'd take this whiteboard and we'd kind of count up how much I've spent over the years exactly. You know, this is a rough estimate just based off of my memory, but the H2 comes in as still the most hulking, biggest, not the biggest motorcycle I currently own, but certainly the most expensive and the biggest impact on my wallet. I bought this bike for $32,000. Unfortunately, that is not the only cost I've spent on this bike. The bike also has a $3,000 exhaust that was full titanium from Van Diemen, plus another $500 tune, and then a $60 fender eliminator kit, bringing the grand total $35,560. Not to mention gas, tires, and all the other stuff, but this is just counting up how much this bike as it stands costs to build and modify. The next one up is a little bit of a fun one because I don't exactly actually remember how much I spent on this bike. Ducatis are a little bit expensive and you just try to put it out of your brain. You don't try to think about it as much. We have to separate this by quadrant. Hopefully this one should actually be relatively simple because a lot of the stuff, the MSRP is just online, very easily accessible. So I believe I spent about $27,000 on this bike. So $27,000 is the purchase price plus the $5,000 slip-on exhaust from Ducati. Now I know that exhaust sounds bad. $5,000 for an exhaust. Well, first of all, that is unfortunately Ducati. It's a Ducati branded exhaust, but the advantage compared to other exhausts like on my H2, by putting the exhaust and the tune on that bike, unfortunately, you void the warranty. If anything happens to my H2, it is full cost to me. If the engine blows up, I have to pay for it. However, on the V4, it comes with a 2-year warranty that you can extend up to 7 years, I believe. And by buying and spending the extra money on the Ducati branded exhaust, I get to keep the full factory warranty. So if anything happens on this bike, I don't have to pay for it unless I crash it, which then that's insurance. So you pay a little bit of extra money, but then you get the insurance of that if anything goes wrong, like anything catastrophic because of a bad tune or something like that, I'm covered. I don't have to pay for it. So that is included with the price of the exhaust. You have to think about that. And then there's a $230 fender eliminator on it as well. I've kept this bike relatively basic, kind of like a lot of my other bikes. I never really truly owned a motorcycle long enough to really feel justified to modify it to its full extent. Usually just a couple of bolt-ons and that's good enough for me. But that brings us to a grand total, quick math in my head, $32,230. The H2 still beats it out by about 3 grand and some change. We're almost 70 grand into this and I'm only at 2 motorcycles. There's a lot more to go. There's unfortunately some motorcycles that aren't here. We first of all have my Honda Grom that is located inside my house currently. I'm just gonna throw the Grom down here really quick. The Grom only cost me about $3,300 and the Grom only has a $60 exhaust on it, bringing the grand total to $33,360. Another bike that I don't have here, unfortunately, right now is my Triumph Rocket 3, a bike that I quickly revealed on this page and then has disappeared ever since. The Triumph is a hard one to remember exactly how much I spent on. As you guys remember, or maybe you don't, I traded in my Yamaha R6. So I traded in a bike. I didn't spend that much on the bike. I think I only spent like 12 grand total. I think the out the door price was close to 20. So I'll call it that. $20,000 on the Triumph Rocket 3 without the trade-in. And that bike has 0 modifications yet because I don't even have it in my garage. That bike has been sitting at the dealership ever since I bought it like 3 months ago. So $20,000 that bike is. Ooh. Next up, we have one of my favorite bikes in the lineup. This is my Yamaha R6. The R6 is a bike that's very near and dear to my heart. I bought it during a very strange time in my life. Last year, we had a very rough winter as well. And so I was really struggling to come up with content ideas and things to do over the winter that had to do with motorcycles. And this bike kind of just popped into my life one day. I think I literally took a day off of school so I could go drive 12 hours so I could pick this bike up in Virginia in the middle of a snowstorm. I don't think I documented it all too well, like how crazy of an idea it was to buy this bike. I mean, I obviously documented buying the bike in the process of getting it street legal because this is a 2025 race model that I converted into street use. I still have all the stickers on it that say it's not for street use, it's only for track only. And because I live in the lovely state of Ohio, it really wasn't that complicated to get this bike ready for street use. Even though that these bikes are super overinflated on the used market, I bought this bike for only $11,500. This bike has unfortunately been sitting in my garage for the past 4 months because I haven't been riding it. I refuse to ride this bike in anything but less than perfect conditions. I plan on keeping this bike forever. One of my favorite bikes, one of my favorite looking bikes of all time. I really want to take care of it to the best of my ability, so I don't take it out in the salt, I don't take it out in the rain. So it's been sitting for quite a while, but this bike also has a $1,000 Akrapovic exhaust on it, or was it $1,600? I forget. I'll call it $1,200. This is a very rough estimate of what this all is. And then it also has an $80 fender eliminator that doesn't really work too well, and I've gotten pulled over a few times because of it. Not to mention, I had to spend about $800 to get this bike street legal, if I remember. About $800 worth of parts for mirrors, lights, turn signals, the whole shebang. So all in all, I think we're sitting at what? $13,580 for this bike. Not too bad when considering used bikes. Used Yamaha R6s are typically in the $14,000 to $15,000 range with 10,000 miles on it and they're beat to hell. I think I did pretty all right on this bike. Next up, we got a little bit of a speed round. We have the Ducati Hyper 698 here. These are unfortunately really expensive for what they are, and I think I definitely overspent when I bought this bike because I calculated it all up. Bought this bike for around $14,000, spent $3,000 on that exhaust right there. Again, it's another same thing as the V4 exhaust. It's another Ducati exhaust, so I keep the warranty, but also spend a little bit more money. $280 for a fender eliminator to a grand total of $17,280 for a single cylinder giant sumo. It's insane. I'm never getting my money back for that bike. Next up is going to be my Triumph 765 Daytona. This is one of the weirder bikes I've had on the page that not a lot of people understand what this bike is. It's basically like the R6. It's a middleweight sport bike that I love. And funny enough, this is actually one of my cheaper motorcycles that I bought. I only spent $12,000 on this bike when I bought it. And ever since then, I have literally not touched this bike besides like 2 oil changes. I have kept the same very old tires on this bike, have not changed the tires yet. And it's been nothing but pretty reliable to me so far. It's been pretty good to me. Despite being the oldest bike in my lineup right now, it has surprisingly been one of my favorites. And I plan on keeping this bike around for quite a little bit. So, and last but not least, we have the KTM 990 RCR. I'll keep this one quick, but yeah, I did admit I spent $16,000 on this bike after taxes and fees. Not sure if I remember if I'm including taxes and fees on all these bikes. Again, this is a rough estimate, but yeah, this has been one of the more expensive bikes that I bought in terms of middleweights, especially when you compare it to the R6 that I only bought for $11,500 and the Triumph that I only bought for $12,000. Yeah, buying brand new bikes in brand new model years is not the best way to save money when you're trying to get into motorcycles. After adding everything up, I have spent a grand total of around $150,000 on motorcycles. I'm not known for my financial literacy or good decision making. I added up all of my motorcycles, how much like the MSRPs and like all their modifications, everything together, like a rough estimate. This is probably a low estimate, $150,000. Is this what's here? No, that's everything. That's like Rocket 3, Grom, everything.
Yeah, bro. Put the truck in there too.
The truck's not going in there.
Put the truck in there.
No.
You'll be at 200K.
It's almost 200K in vehicles. No house, by the way. 0 place of residence other than this rental. Not known for my financial decision. Something important I think I should mention is I don't look at motorcycles like they're flex vehicles. Like imagine a dude online trying to sell you like an online course or something. He's trying to flex on Instagram and the dude drives a Honda Civic. That is essentially what each individual, I mean like in some cases a clapped Civic. In many of the cases that you look at like my motorcycles, each individual one costs less, if not the same, as like a normal commuter car. Like even the H2 in the best case scenario is like a nicely optioned Honda Civic these days. Not even, probably even like a base model Civic. Yes, as a collective, it can definitely be a flex. You know, owning multiple motorcycles, it was a dream of mine. It's a dream of a lot of people, I think. But it's not like owning a collection of like supercars, because like each individual one is like a flex of its own. I would never, ever in a million years come on the internet flexing a motorcycle and try to use that as like, I'm better, I can ride better than anybody. Because that's another thing about motorcycles is it doesn't matter how much money you have, it doesn't make you a better rider. You can own a $100,000 super bike that you throw carbon fiber wheels and the best set of suspension on. You can still be a crap rider. Meanwhile, getting passed by the dude with a $500 300. That's what makes motorcycles amazing. Now, the reason I spend my money on motorcycles and the reason why I own so many of them is because I enjoy the lifestyle aspect of it. You know, I complain a lot about motorcycles. You know, a lot of things go wrong, but at the end of the day, that is what I enjoy. I don't necessarily enjoy doing the dumb stuff on motorcycles so much anymore. I enjoy the lifestyle aspect of it, like maintaining the bikes. Things are constantly going wrong on these things. They're not built to last a million miles, so things go wrong. Like the KTM. The KTM being a prime example of that. Bought a brand new bike and already having a couple of issues that we gotta solve. As much as I come on the internet and complain about it, I enjoy it. It's what I like about motorcycles. I like having to fix things. I like problems that give me solutions to solve, that I have the time, luckily now without school, to solve. Is it annoying to have to drive 13 hours home from Florida after I went down there to ride the motorcycle more? Yeah, but at the end of the day, this is what I enjoy about motorcycles the most. And it is what it is. And well, boys, welcome back to KTM Polaris of Medina. I don't know if I mentioned in the last video, I really hope I did. The dealership, this dealership right here, they called me and they 100% agreed with me. And also, KTM, the manufacturer, also agrees with me. The tires are not really defective, it's just more that KTM put way too aggressive of a tire on a street bike and then shipped this motorcycle to freezing cold states, like Ohio. It was literally like sub 30 temperatures when the bike was delivered. The trucks in which these bikes are delivered on are not climate controlled. So not only did I expose this bike to sub freezing temperatures, but also the manufacturer before it was even delivered. So regardless of if I took this bike to Florida or not, it probably would have gotten messed up anyway. Long story short, it's not entirely my fault. So I'm bringing the bike to KTM Medina to get tires replaced. Luckily, they were replacing these tires with something much better. There's like a warning on Michelin's site for that specific set of tires that you're not supposed to store them. Like, store the tires below 50 degrees Fahrenheit. So basically, you have to have a heated garage, which means you have to be basically a billionaire to buy those tires. Insane, bro. Why KTM decided to ship a street bike with tires that can't be out or even stored below 50 degrees is beyond me. Say goodbye to the KTM because she's gonna be gone for a little bit. I unfortunately am gonna have to wait a couple of days to even remotely get that bike back, but the next time I'm gonna be riding that bike, I have no idea. I plan on going back down to Florida for Daytona Bike Week, but the weather is still not fantastic here. As you can tell, there's still a bunch of snow and salt on the ground. It's not fantastic. Well, boys, it finally feels nice for it to be warming up here. There was a lot less snow and ice than when I left this morning. So finally, one of the most common questions that I get on this channel is, how do I afford the bikes and the trips and basically everything that I do? What trust fund or what job do I have that allows me to do all this? The cool thing is the answer already has evidence online. I've been doing social media for a couple of years now, like 5 or 6 years now. I have zero trust fund. I don't have any rich, super rich parents. My parents are just normal people from Cleveland, Ohio. I am, or at least was, a college student. I finally just got my degree this year. And between working small little jobs here and there, like working at Target when I was younger to afford my first bike, every single motorcycle that you see in this garage today is paid for by this. Between these videos, these short form videos that you see on TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, everything, all of these platforms combined allows me to live this life that I have. Now, I'm certainly not the biggest creator of all time. I still feel like I have a long ways to go. And I also don't have any sponsorships. I'm not here to sell you guys anything. Anything you guys see me use in my videos, I use because I like. I don't buy motorcycles from a certain brand because I'm paid for. I don't use a certain product. I don't use this because I was paid to use it. I just use the stuff I use. I don't have any motorcycle giveaways that are basically gambling in disguise. I look at content creation as I create entertainment for you, and in return, I get ad revenue and your time and things like that. Your time is worth money, and by me sharing my life to the platform and stealing a little bit of your time, I get paid for by the platform. I think that is the purest way to do content creation. And though I'm not entirely opposed to doing a sponsorship that I believe in the future, I think by presenting myself this way, especially while I'm younger, I hope that I can gain the trust of people that if and when I sell out, it is not like officially gonna be selling out, like it would be for a product that I actually believe in. But until that day comes, until I find something that is worth selling out for, it's just me. Motorcycles are kind of on the cheaper end of this like automotive YouTube space if you want to call it. You know, a $15,000 motorcycle or like an $80,000 BMW M3, the motorcycles are a lot cheaper. They're more expensive probably to maintain over time, and they require a lot more attention. Motorcycle YouTube is just significantly cheaper than car YouTube. And with all that being said, we still have a long ways off until the season officially returns here in Ohio. We still have quite a bit of snow and ice to melt off the roads before we can actually enjoy a ride. And we also have 2 motorcycles fully missing from the lineup and another motorcycle that's hiding inside the house right now. But let me know if I answered some of y'all's questions. These are some of the most common questions that I get on this page, like how does this all cost? How do I pay for it? I do also own every single one of these bikes in full. I don't lease, I don't make payments on any of them. I have the titles to every single one of these bikes. And I would not, and let me be clear, I would not buy any of these bikes if I didn't want to buy them. Riding is my entire life, and it's what I live for. So with all that being said, we still have a lot to look forward to. So make sure you guys stick around, and I will talk to you guys in the next one. Bye-bye.